technology bug out bag. What an interesting idea. Well, hello YouTube. Let me give you a little bit more light here so you can see this beautiful Seclusion 3D camo shirt that I got a couple years ago. It was just random. It was like $3 in a store or something, and I thought, oh, that'd be a nice, warm shirt to have if I'm out hiking or something. And special, I just inhaled pasta lunch real quick. Remember this Diet Bullfrog? Yes, I know it needs to go with the day pack, camping pack. Talk about that later. Maybe not in this video, but later. But bonus points if you notice what's funny about this shirt. There's something funny about this shirt. Okay. Topic of today's video is 10 things that you can make in a shit hits the fan situation that, not just for yourself, maybe to barter for other people, maybe, well, I guess those are the two options, at least on the outset. For yourself or for other people, you can make this stuff. And I'm going to, maybe I'll close with a mystery, a little super bonus mystery about myself in regards to these topics kind of in general. So number one is carts/logistics. This topic, I've talked a little bit about how to move things by hand, so this topic relates to hand-pulled carts, wheelbarrows, radio flyer type wagons, bicycle trailers, anything that a human or human-powered vehicle can work with to move items. If you have a little torch, cordless drill, some nuts and bolts, scrap material, you could make these things for your neighbors or for people passing by if you were so inclined, and I suspect people would find value in moving their items because most people probably didn't watch my video and they weren't ready with their train of bicycle trailers. Number two, clothes. Now this is kind of a tricky one. Now that I think about it, where are you going to get the fabric? Are you going to make your own fabric? I'm not sure about the fabric, right? But maybe repurposing clothes, maybe kind of working with clothes and garments, maybe not just making clothes, but working with clothes. People are not going to be buying stuff in stores in a long-term tier 1 situation, and most people don't use a needle and thread. I certainly don't very much. I believe there's going to be a demand for people who can manufacture, repair clothing. Number three, alcohol. Not booze, but I mean fuel, like alcohol stove, for example, to cook or to heat with. So possibly distilling grains. I suppose you're going to have to distill grains. It's basically the only way to make fuel unless you're going the petroleum method. And hey, if you want to make gasoline from crude oil in the apocalypse, I'm not worthy. But distilling alcohol for fuel could be a potentially useful thing. Just be careful if you're doing it before shit hits the fan, because unless you are doing it unless you have an approved fuel, there's laws and regulations about it. Look into it. Don't take my word for it. I should be giving legal advice on the ramifications of distilling your own alcohol, but don't drink it, don't sell it, make sure you have the right permits, okay? Number four, knives, weapons. People will probably want knives and weapons. Whether or not you want to be an arms manufacturer, I leave that up to you. If you want to be making, giant axes and swords for people, or if you're content making little camp knives. But at any rate, people will want little knives and axes and things like that. I believe I separate out tools differently Making a pair of pliers is similar to making a knife, but there are differences. Let's just say that knives and tools kind of are in separate categories. So knives and weapons. Water filters, whether probably going to be some kind of charcoal type water filter, unless you're distilling water, which I suppose you could do, or unless you're doing some kind of solar still. But let's say water purification. If you can manufacture water purification related goods, that's going to be valuable to community, to yourself, to your neighbors. Number 6, tools, briefly mentioned. Tools, you're not going to be making cordless drills, but and in fact, interestingly, tools are rather hard to make. You don't really think about it, but even making something like a crescent wrench would be amazingly hard by hand. Even if you had a forge, uh, you know, even if you had a mill and a forge and a lathe, making a crescent wrench by hand is no small order. So, if you do have enough of a machine shop to make tools, man, people are going to like you. Maybe too much. Maybe too much. Number 7, cooking or heating equipment. If you can help people cook things over a fire or other type of fuel, maybe some concentrated solar power cooking, still counts. Or if you can help people heat their homes or their shelters, however method you so desire, that's going to be something that you can. Now that kind of gets into service work a little bit there, but let's say that it requires kind of an installation and some kind of product, working with some sort of product. Number 8, shelter / defensive / gaze / fences. Structures that provide shelter and or defense to a perimeter. Now, for the urban person, perhaps not as important. It kind of depends on the situation. It may be weird to think about building a new home or a new home out of used materials in the apocalypse, but I think potentially there's going to be nomads that just sort of wind up wandering to areas, and maybe you don't have enough, you can stop them from hanging out on your land. Maybe there's some public land a few miles away. You can't really chase them all away, nor do you maybe necessarily want to chase them all away if they're friendly enough people, depending. Look, I'm not trying to go there. Point is, if you find yourself around people who want help building shelter, building gates, building fences, building perimeters, building barricades, and you can help them build that, and or you have raw materials to help them build that, scavenged, prepped, gathered, or otherwise, might be a value. Number 9, livestock. Number 9 is kind of a big combo one. Livestock, veggies, water. Kind of going to touch on resources in number 9 and number 10. If you can make little baby chickens, if you can make little baby pigs or baby cows, or if we want to take a more hooples-oriented diet or a more earth-friendly oriented diet, not to poke fun at hooples too much, raising animals is very resource-intensive on the environment. Been eating a little vegetarian recently, not the last meal, but I swear there was a day a couple days ago I just had oatmeal and potatoes all day. Wasn't vegan because I had some butter and milk, but every little bit, right? So, food, livestock, water, if you can produce fresh water. Now, some of you watching this video might be thinking, why would I want to give my fresh water to my neighbors? What a stupid idea. And this, you're going to get taken over and somebody's going to rob you and everyone's going to know that you have all the water and chicken and vegetables and you're just asking for trouble. Maybe, right? Maybe. But bottom line is, at least in my opinion, part of being sustainable isn't just making enough for you. It's making enough so that you have a surplus and then using that surplus to kind of fortify your sustainability. 1 solar panel is nice, 2 solar panels is better, 10 solar panels is great, right? So if I'm sustainable at 1 solar panel, yeah, that's great. And I'm not going to buy 100 solar panels, but I might want to buy a dozen solar panels just so that I'm always going to have a little bit of extra power, right? I don't need to make 1,000 knives, but it might be nice to have a forge and some stock and enough material so that I can make a knife, for a friend here and there in the meantime, And if I needed to ramp up that kind of thing in the future, wouldn't be a problem. I don't need to have enough tools to build a house from scratch right now, right? But if I have some basic tools and some basic understanding of woodwork, of metalwork, I can use that knowledge to kind of work on my apartment or work on my car, work on a house that I own in the future. And if things ever get really, really crazy, I can use that same skill, in the apocalypse. So I guess the point of this video is that if you want to build a little bit of stability into your future, think about something you can do for the community, whether it's people you pass, whether you're nomadic, whether you're bugging in, whether you're in the forest. Look, bottom line, you're probably going to be running into other people, and there's a good chance that you're going to be able to barter with them, and a good chance that, they might not have something that that you might want, you might need. You might, it might just be valuable. Who knows why you want to might barter, right? But if you don't sort of have like a niche market, right? I mean, yeah, it's nice to be a little handy and be a little good outdoors and stuff like that, but I would consider trying to focus on a few different areas. Like, look, don't try to be the master, like, carpenter, the master knife maker, the master livestock raiser, the master, like, I don't know, homemade pond installation guy. Don't try to spread yourself out too thin. Granted, homesteaders are already trying to be the master of many trades, which is a very challenging thing, which many of them talk about on their channels. But it's still good to sort of think about what kind of skills can I focus on in the now that can help give me some sort of abundance potentially in the future, or offset costs that I have. It's a little bit more challenging living in an apartment to do stuff like that. Am I going to have a forge in my apartment? No. Am I going to make tools? Maybe. Am I going to be welding carts together? Probably not. Could I do clothes? I could make clothes for people. I could definitely have a sewing machine and make clothes and mend clothes, and but while society is working, there's tailors that can fix a pair of pants for $5 down the street. So, and clothes at Walmart are $10 for a pair of jeans or $15 or whatnot. So I don't know if I'm really going to be using my time efficiently making clothes in the now, but that doesn't mean that having some ability to work with fabric isn't valuable for the future, right? So last but not least, I'm going to leave it a mystery, but I'm working on a top secret manufacturing project. Now, this is the type of manufacturing work that I can do in an apartment. Doesn't make a lot of noise. There's some amount of flexibility with what I can make, some amount of flexibility with the type of material I can use. There's some amount of flexibility and limitations on the size of the thing that I can make. That's a lot of clues. So I'll let you think about that. I might not give the answer out right away, but I'm working towards building a sustainable manufacturing system that is off-grid. Now, the sustainable part is hard, right? Because the resources for manufacturing are somewhat processed. So I can't just go to the forest and produce what I'm making out of things from the forest, for example. Now, if I had a little bit more machinery, the type of which I don't even know completely if they offer in a sort of home commercial, a home DIY type setup. I don't believe they do for the most part, but it's not impossible to try to make the resource, so to speak. So, for example, if I was talking about, I don't know, cooking or something, like making cookies, opening up a bakery, then I would need flour. So the flour wouldn't be sustainable unless I was making flour, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. I'm opening a manufacturing type bakery, so to speak. I'm not baking anything, but to use the analogy, I want to make something, I have a resource. I can't make the resource yet, but before I worry about not being able to make the resource, I can focus on being able to make a variety of goods. And what's cool about this is if I can somehow solve the resource issue of how to make the resource, then the manufacturing side is a certain amount of capital for the equipment, and then power, basically. Power and a little bit of a few other pieces of hardware / tech that you kind of need to use to make everything work, right? So many clues, you probably can figure out what I'm talking about, but at any rate, top secret manufacturing project, looking to be able to manufacture a variety of things for a variety of people, somewhat mobile, not the most mobile thing in the world, but not the least mobile thing in the world. And how does it relate to prepping? Well, stuff breaks, right? Stuff breaks. There's a lot of different tools, and gadgets that preppers use and need and love and might want for the future and might not even yet exist, but when you see it, you're going to know that you want it, okay? So the same reason that even though you can buy a knife in the store, it's still valuable to know how to make a knife is the same reason that I'm working on manufacturing to build things that you can mostly buy in stores. And I don't expect to, quit looking for a full-time job or anything like that. But the point is, I think it's really important that everyone on the planet really can contribute a surplus. Now, it doesn't have to be manufacturing something. It could be something, it could be time you spend with people. It could be a lot of different ways. In my instance, I'm a fan of building and creating things. Lord knows we don't need to use up all the resources on the planet and build things indefinitely. You can certainly upcycle and recycle and all that, but I'm a big fan of people having a skill where they can make something, they can add value to a product, right? You don't have to make the fiber that you're using to sew the pants or, to build a pair of pants, but you don't need to know how to make the sewing machine that you're using. But you do have to have a sewing machine, and you do have to have some fabric if you're trying to make a pair of pants. So kind of a balance between, I want to live completely away from society, but this part on my sewing machine just broke and I have to mail order it. Whatever. So this video has gotten ridiculously long, 17 minutes, but I want to get some feedback on what type of things, what type of activities, what type of skills, what type of trades you're thinking about for the future and for the now. What type of trades are you trying to learn to make profit now, make profit in the future, to barter, to just enjoy life, to learn something, to give yourself a little bit more breadth of experience in this existence that we have. Is me assembling a trampoline ever going to help me in the apocalypse? I don't know. But is being able to work with tools and put things together going to be useful? I don't know. I think so. Anyways, to stop this video from being over 20 minutes, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you think about skills and making things, products to sell, barter, or just for yourself, friends, and family. In a shit hits the fan and before shit hits the fan scenario. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.